I think we can get started. First of all, Vanishree, thank you so much for being here. I know you have a very busy schedule, so we really appreciate you taking the time to be here for the ZK Monk community. Mentorship, of course, is something that's very valuable to us and important. So thank you so much for your time. And for anyone who might not know, Vanishree is the founder of Firma, and she's a renowned cryptographer and MENA protocol architect. And she also has a PhD in cryptography from UCLA with Professor Amit Sahai, and her research has been published in numerous seminal papers at top-tier conferences. So she's a real expert. Vanishree, feel free to take it away, and maybe we could take questions in the end if we have time.
Amazing. It's amazing to be here. It's always invigorating to see people getting excited about ZK and wanting to learn ZK. So I appreciate this opportunity. Cool. So we can have this as conversational as people want, and the goal is for me to get a chance to add value, right? So it depends on what you all want to learn more about and less about. So please raise hand, and I will not go into the presentation mode. I'll just go this way so that I can track if there are any questions. Cool. Right. Actually, let me also thanks, Anne, for the introduction. Let me also quickly say a little bit more about myself and about what we are doing, and then we can get right into the presentation. Like Anne said, my background is in cryptography. I got into crypto the traditional way of learning and contributing to cryptography, which is the underpinning technology of crypto, right? And in my previous lives, I focused on designing ZK proof systems, proving them secure. It was a lot of math-intensive work. And Amit Sahai that you mentioned, he was my advisor, and he has done some foundational work. For example, he introduced the notion of security for ZK. He gave us the framework for what it means for a proof system to be secure. And he did some very, very foundational work. So it was amazing to work with him. But I had always been a product person in my mind, and wanted to build something and add value that way. That's why while working at MENA and while working at another project called Midnight, I came across this gap in the world, in the ZK space. And Firma was born to bridge that gap. And what was that gap? The gap was there was this ZK boom starting to happen, and everybody was figuring out their infrastructure by themselves. There was no off-the-shelf infrastructure, a universal infrastructure that everybody could use. And I felt the pain while working at MENA, while working at Midnight, because it wasn't easy to figure out the mechanism design of it. It wasn't easy to figure out where to access them. The whole infrastructure pain was clear. So we went and built this one-stop layer for infrastructure for ZK. Any proof system, any chain, any app that needs proof, you just send a proof request, and Firma is the universal proof generation layer, and it generates proof for you. So that's what we built. And to tell you a little bit more about where we are in testnet phase 3. This probably is the last phase as far as the institutional supply partners are concerned. On the demand side, we have these customers, ZK Sync, which is one of the largest producers of zero-knowledge proofs. They are one of our customers. Scroll is another one of our customers. And we have a bunch of other customers. So they want proofs to be very, their proofs are really heavy. I'm saying all this because this is also an information in zk. Proving isn't easy. Proving is it tends to be very heavy. That's why we can't have like little phones or laptops that are generating proofs on the supply side. We are a marketplace. There is demand, there is supply, like Uber. On the supply side, we have these heavy machines, mostly 4090s, A100s. So that's where we are, and Pharma is very exciting, and we're very happy to be on this path. And yeah, let's get right into the discussion. I don't know how much of depth you may already have with zk. So feel free to stop. Feel free to ask me to pace up and go to the next slides, which I'm happy to do, and go deeper. But let's start at a very high level. Let's start with some intuition, just to set the stage. So what is zk? Let's start from the notion of encryption, right? Encryption we all understand, and encryption is this cryptographic tool. It helps us to do something, right? It's a cryptographic tool. It helps us to achieve a function and achieve a security. Every time you think about cryptography, a tool in cryptography, you should always think about what's the functionality and what's the security. It always comes with these two things. So similarly we all know encryption. What's the functionality for encryption? You send a message from one party to another party. What's the security? Nobody else gets to know the message, right? That's encryption's functionality and security. Now, what is zk? What is its functionality? What is its security? Its functionality is that, let's say you're a prover, now I'm a verifier. There are two parties, somebody proves, somebody verifies. And the prover, the functionality is that the prover can convince the verifier of some true facts. That's the functionality. You can do this. This is the functionality. It happens. What is the security? What are the bad things that cannot happen? The bad things that cannot happen is, no matter how strong you are as a prover, you cannot convince me of a wrong statement. You can only convince me of right statements. You cannot convince me of a wrong statement. Let's say there is a Sudoku puzzle with no answer at all. You cannot convince me that, hey, I have an answer, it actually works, but I'm not going to reveal the answer, but it actually works. If you send me a proof for that statement, I will never verify. That's the security property of zk. So that's the right way to understand zk. What is its functionality? What is its security? If you look at traditional papers, the way they explain is zk has three properties. One is completeness, which is that it's actually the functionality that you can indeed convince me. That's the functionality part. I'm saying this just so when you're reading papers, you know how to map what we just discussed to what they're saying. The functionality is the completeness. There are two security properties. One is that you cannot convince me of a wrong statement. And then there is this additional privacy security property, which is that, like in the example that we had, you have a Sudoku puzzle, you know a solution, I don't know the solution. You want to convince me that you know the solution without revealing the solution to me. How can you do that with zk? You don't have to reveal the solution, but if you have the solution, you can create a proof that does not reveal the solution. But I can, just by looking at the proof, I can get convinced that you do have a solution, and I don't know that solution, right? There's this privacy property. where you're able to selectively hide the reason why your statement is true. So this is, so let me summarize. We understood what zk is from the perspective of functionality and the two security properties. So zk, let's really zoom out and understand where we are in this evolution of zk. zk started decades ago, and when it quick anecdote is that the folks who invented two of the folks who invented zk, they were one of them was an advisor of my advisor. Shafi Goldwasser was my advisor's advisor, and Amit, I think, also had Silvio Micali on his I think in his defense committee. So this was invented long ago, decades ago, and after that, what happened was zk was one of the things that was worked on in cryptography. Like there are multi-body computation protocols, fully homomorphic encryption protocols, different kinds of encryption protocols, different kinds of signatures, ring signatures, group signatures. There are a lot of things in cryptography. People were working on all of them, and this was just one of them. zk was just one of them. And of course, there were advancements year after year after year. There were papers, there were advancements in papers, advancements that were written in conference papers. And fast forward to crypto, Bitcoin came, Ethereum came, then came Zcash. Zcash was one of the first projects that used zk in such a mass manner, and it kind of got everybody's attention. Especially, it kind of got investors' attention. It kind of got developers' attention, and so far, by now, billions of dollars have been poured into zk, and zk has grown so it has grown by leaps and bounds, and it the amount Zcash was indeed the OG. And they actually, Zcash contributed a lot to the space, a lot. They don't get enough credit for it. Where we are right now is, after these billions of dollars poured in, there was so much of brain power dedicated to zk these days. zk has taken sort of a center stage as far as cryptography is concerned in crypto. And right now we are at a time where embracing zk is so easy, and you can actually add value. I think that this is just a very, very, very high potentially. This, if you get into zk now, it's a very fruitful endeavor. Why? Because you have a lot of tools. It's not like, it's not the Zcash time. Zcash time, they had to figure it all out. Now you have a lot of tools, a lot of advancements. Embracing zk is so easy. And we as an industry have learned a lot about where zk is useful. And let's kind of double click on why it is important, why zk is important right now. So we talked about how so much money is poured into zk, and zk has advanced. But why did people pour into zk? Why didn't people pour that kind of money into fully homomorphic encryption, for example? Why didn't people pour this into some esoteric other cryptography protocols, like I don't know, ring signatures, group signatures, some indistinguishability obfuscation. That was another cool aspect that cryptographers worked on, but it never saw the day. ZK did. ZK of all cryptographic tools did. Why? Because it's so applicable, especially in our industry. It's so applicable. What ZK brings is this trustless integrity proof, right? Where you don't have to trust anybody, and they can do some work, and they can convince you that they did some work. That they can convince you that they did some work, but where there are actually two areas. Let's divide our whole. Let's divide the use cases into two parts, right? One part where the privacy part, the privacy aspect of ZK is useful. The other part where the integrity, the easy integrity verification part is useful. The part where zero knowledge part of ZK is useful is the part, it's useful in our industry, but let's first talk about the other part where easy integrity verification is useful. That's exactly what is getting used in ZK rollups, ZK bridges, etc. So what is happening is when we said I can verify, right? You did some proof, and I can verify. I, as a verifier, I don't have to put a lot of effort in verifying, right? That's the succinctness property of zero knowledge proofs. I don't have to put a lot of time and energy into verifying. Even if you, let's say you have terabytes of data and you want to prove something about that data, you do all the work processing the terabytes of data, and you create a proof. And that proof is still very, very, very little. And it doesn't depend on the size of how much work you did. It's still that consistent small size. You have ZK proofs like that. There are other kinds of ZK proofs, but these are the popular ones. This is a popular property. And there's a succinctness property with which I can verify, right? There's this property. There's a category. There is category number 1 of use cases that use this property of zero knowledge proofs, and they are like ZK rollups, ZK bridges. It's how do you characterize? You look at a use case. What property should you use? So the answer to that question is, whenever you have two parties, right? Whenever you have two parties, one party does the work, the other party needs to verify that work, but they don't trust each other. Whenever something like this happens, ZK is a great tool. This happens a lot in our industry. Like, for example, in ZK rollups, right? There is this rollup sequencer that is that is rollup infrastructure that is taking a lot of transactions, bundling them into one single piece, and then putting that on the base layer. And then you say that I'm not using the base layer for every transaction, but I'm putting them all together and then using the base layer infrastructure only once in a while when I have enough of the bundle. And here, there is someone who is bundling the transaction, who is sequencing them correctly, who is making sure that there are certain rules in that roll-up network that are met. Somebody is doing that. Somebody is taking care of that. Maybe one party or multiple parties. Let's not worry about that. Somebody is doing that, but that's not the base layer. So the base layer has no reason to trust whatever these other parties are doing in the roll-up scenario. So what do? naive way, hey, base layer anyway executes transactions, right? So these are also transactions. Maybe we post all the transactions. We just make a list of all the transactions and dump them onto the layer 1. But that defeats the purpose, because you are making the base layer work the same amount. There is no use of rollup now. You want the you want the base layer to do less work. So you want to give the base layer just a little proof for this bundle of transactions, a little proof for this long amount of work. And the way you do it is with zero-knowledge proofs. That's why there are zk rollups, right? They do exactly this, where they put together a bunch of transactions, they sequence them, they create a proof of some correctness, and that gets verified on the base layer. And so this is one category, right? This is one category of use cases of zk. There is this other category of use cases of zk, which utilize the zero-knowledge property of zk. And just to recall, what is zero-knowledge? You prove something to somebody, but you hide why that thing is true. At least some information about why it's true, you can hide. And that is the zero-knowledge property, where by looking at the proof, the verifier gets to know nothing about that, about the hidden information, except for the fact that it corroborates your statement. Now, what are some examples of use cases where some popular examples of use cases where zk property of zero-knowledge proofs is useful? One is, I really like the example of zero-knowledge identity, where what happens without zk? You go to a bar, you have your driver's license, and it says your date of birth. The bouncer looks at your date of birth. Yeah, you are indeed over 21 years over some threshold of age. You're welcome. So that bouncer, you don't know that bouncer. You don't know in what you don't know whether that person is making note of your address, whether that person has so much more. There's so much more information on that driver's license. Your first name, your last name. It basically helps you. It becomes this. There are so many services that have you show your driver's license info as the secret, right? You're supposed to keep it secret. And so you, for personal safety reasons, for physical safety reasons, for digital security reasons, you shouldn't be sharing all that information. And it's a sorry state that we are having to just flash our entire ID information to anybody who wants a little bit of information. All they want to know is whether you're above the age limit to go and have a drink. Now, how can zk help? zk can help by using the zk property of zero-knowledge proofs. What you can do is you can hide your address, your exact date of birth, your first name, your last name, your the exact signature from the authority who issued that identity card to you. All of that can be hidden, and the only fact is that you can prove this statement. This authority has certified on something, and that something shows that I'm above 21 years of age. There is that sentence, doesn't reveal anything more than what is needed, and you can send a proof. You can send a proof to that person. And one of the amazing projects that are working on this is World Chain, where they are using some sort of identity. There is a notion of identity, and you can actually add other notions of identity, age and other aspects of identity. And there's this one, you can think about one single notion of identity, and you can prove various things about your identity in different situations. So that's an example. There are a few other projects, zk email, etc., that are using zk property of zero knowledge proofs. There are two amazing protocols which are in the space, Aztec and Labyrinth. They are introducing privacy to. They're introducing privacy to the space, and they're coming at it from different angles. But I really like these two projects, and they're very strong teams. So yeah, I think this is just to zoom out and quickly summarize here. We understood what zk is, and we understood why it's important and how it is important in today's time in crypto. Now, on the note of why zk matters, there is one thing that before we move on, there is one very, very important aspect, that is Ethereum embracing zk. zk is becoming the core enabler of everything that Ethereum wants to do now and in the future. For efficiency, for sure, right now, with this initiative of ETH proofs. So what ETH proofs is that it really fits this framework, testing framework of whether zk is the right tool or not. And why it really fits this framework is that in Ethereum, right, in a consensus protocol like Ethereum's, you have a block producer who does some work, right? And then there are other people who verify that work. There is one person who is doing that work, but there are a lot of people that are verifying that work. In what is happening without zero knowledge proofs is that one person does the work. For everybody to verify, they redo the work. What an inefficient way of leading life, right? So instead of that, what you can do is one person does the work and generates a proof, and everybody else verifies the proof. It's such a small amount of work to verify that large amount of work to verify that a large amount of work was done correctly. So ETH proofs is such a, it's this resounding emphasis to the world that, hey, look, zero knowledge proofs are such an important tool to our industry, and we are embracing it so tightly right now. So check them out. I think the website is ethproofs.org. And we are actually generating proofs for them. We are using one of the heaviest proof systems. That's why it's taking so long. We haven't built those proof systems. Our goal at Firma is just to generate proofs. We are giving the infrastructure for, we are a universal proving infrastructure, which means that we are credibly neutral in terms of which proof system we will use, but whichever the proof system is going to help Ethereum, we're going to take them and generate proofs. And this is just an amazing initiative by Ethereum Foundation. Cool. Moving on. I think this is what I wanted to emphasize. I wish there was somebody like I wish that this information is more available, that, you know, how to get into zk is more available, because there is just a lot. It is so easy to get overwhelmed by the amount of information, by the amount of activity. There is so much of it, just moves so fast. Let's say you start with I'll give you an example. You think that this is a great proof system. you really want to learn about that proof system. You take a bunch of papers, really learn about it. In 1 month, the world has gone way farther. You're not, it is so hard to keep up with the pace of this space. So what do we do? What do we do, right? I made 3 categories here. I think it's very important to hone in on a category, really understand what you want to do depending on your strengths and your passion, and then understand what is it that you should do. Without a strategy like this, it is very easy to spend a lot of time without actually doing, without actually going further. So the 3 categories. The first category is the foundations category. Think of these as layers. Foundations category is where you have these algorithms, the proof systems. You can think about the work of optimizing these proof systems. You can think about the work of proving these proof systems secure. You can think about, okay, these are the current proof systems. How do I make them faster, make them cheaper? How do I squeeze out maybe time in some algorithm? How do I reduce the amount of reduce the amount of work done by the verifier? There's so much of work that can be done on the foundations layer, and this is an active area. Many people are working on this area, and things are moving at the pace of something significant on a daily basis. So that's foundations. You should pick that if you're mathematically bent, and if algorithms speak to you, if you like reading papers, if you have a sense of what is secure, what is not secure, if you like cryptography in general. This is a great direction. This is how I personally got into crypto. This was my entry point into crypto. The second one is infrastructure, and this is where I currently live. So what are the kinds of infrastructure you can build in ZK? For infrastructure, you don't need to know the entire depths of ZK. You don't need to know exactly how this proof system works. You don't need to know why. How, given 2 proof systems, what exactly are the different algorithms, specific algorithms that are used to make it work. You don't need to know all that. But you do need to have a good understanding of ZK. You need to have a good understanding of the space. You need to have a good understanding of demand in the space. You need to have an intuition on where the space is going to see what you want to build. So a few things that are getting built that are useful are, one is, of course, proof market. Anybody who has embraced ZK needs to generate proofs. It's hard to generate proofs on your own. You have to spin up an entire infrastructure network, and you have to figure out the mechanism. You have to run it. You have to maintain it. You have to deploy it, etc. It's not that easy. Instead, you have proof markets. And the second one is, one you can do is, there are existing proof markets, but you can get in by helping these proof markets do some integrations. Firma has this universal proof market, and we are integrating a lot of proof systems, a lot of applications, and there is integration work. This is a peripheral work, but still useful. You'll understand the space. You'll understand. You're at this intersection of applications. You're at this intersection of algorithms and infrastructure on the other side. You're at this intersecting area, and great chance and low risk way of getting to know the space. The third example here is rollups, ZK rollups specifically, and rollups as a service. These are things that people have built, people are still building. That's another bunch of categories. And then the third one is, I think, a more exciting one, where you can think about applications. Now is probably a good time to think about applications where you have algorithms, you have infrastructure, we now need applications. So like I was mentioning, there are two categories of applications. One is that uses the succinct integrity verification of zero knowledge proofs, and the other one is that that uses the privacy aspect of zero knowledge proofs. So we got a problem here, which is that zkVMs, you would have heard zkVMs, that's part of foundations. People have built zkVMs, and what zkVMs do is it makes you adopt adopt zero knowledge proofs tech easily, but they typically don't come with the zero knowledge property. They haven't designed or most of them haven't designed or implemented zero knowledge property within their zkVMs. So you basically use these zkVMs for the first category, which is the user, which is the succinct integrity verification property. So it is very, in this time and age, you could still work with the applications where privacy is a concern. And for that, there is CIRCOM, there is Noir, and there are these tools that you can use, but they're less. Their UX is a little bit less. There are better toolkits that are coming to make using these things easier. These circuit builders easier. So still. The world still you haven't hit a dead end there. There is still some possibility that you can build applications where privacy is important with zk, but you can think about other categories like user integrity, where you want to prove. So there is an application, there's a user who does something. The user shouldn't be sharing some information. There is a little bit of work that they're doing, but let's say you don't want to know the entirety. Let's say you want to have proof. You can have that proof verification. There is a little bit of there is privacy aspect here, but it is very hard to think about applications where you're going to use the integrity, the succinct integrity verification property. It typically is used at the infrastructure level, at the apps level. Most of the applications that I can think of are using zero knowledge property, where you use zero knowledge at the user level, and you have the zk property getting used, and you have integrity while having privacy of some data. But this is the world right now. That's like an open question. One thing that you can do is you can take all these zkVMs and see how you can add zero knowledge property. Apparently, it actually should be very, very easy to add zero knowledge property, given when you're designing something, when you're building the zero knowledge proof system. A lot of work is in achieving succinct integrity verification property. Only a little bit of work is needed to add zero knowledge property. So you can take that as an open problem, look at some popular zkVMs and add zero knowledge property. That's one call to action, probably. That's another way to get involved. And also to mention, here are a few entry points, depending on what you want to do. Professor Dan Bonet from Stanford, he speaks so eloquently. He speaks, his information is at such an intuitive level. He has some MOOCs. He has some on Coursera on cryptography, and I think any material where he is talking and it's about zero knowledge proofs or about cryptography, they are golden. So I would highly recommend, if you are at an entry level where you're deciding where to how to get in, whichever direction you're going to go, I highly recommend you get those basics in place. and Dan Bunny's courses are probably a great starting point. And I did a bunch of videos with House of ZK. House of ZK is phenomenal. They are shipping content so well. I did a bunch of videos with them where I talked about intuition of ZK. There is no math. There is no. There are a few jargons. So, and the way I introduce jargons in those videos is at an intuitive level, because you need to know the language. If you want to be in the space, you need to know the language. But you want somebody, you want a resource that teaches you those jargons at an intuitive level. They need to mean something. They need to connect. You need to understand what that really means. There has to be a translation from that language to our language. So you're welcome to watch those videos. They should be on House of ZK's Twitter. I think they have posted it on their Twitter account. It should also be on my account. And then there are hackathons. These are a great way to, I would highly recommend, depending on, even if you just want to build at the foundation level, even if you just want to focus at the infrastructure level, I think hackathons are a great way to understand where people are going, where is the mass going, what are the pains of people who are building something. This is such a great way to understand it, and you really understand a lot better by doing things. There are a lot of hackathons happening, and one we are potentially planning is one in Q1 next year, but there's still a lot happening. So please look for hackathons and participate in hackathons. And if you want to get into ZK, it's such a heavy space. There is a lot of advancements. It's not a stagnant one. It's not a boring one for sure. So you do need to keep up with it, to keep it, to make sure that what you're doing is exciting. You need to bring in the passion, and I think these are the ingredients that'll help you. These are some sources of that can help you, resources that can help you getting to ZK. Let me see. I think that is pretty much the overview information I had, and let me see. Yeah, you guys have some questions, it seems. See, go ahead, please.
Can I go?
Yep, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi, Vanishree. So this might be a little bit of a crazy question, but I wanted to pick on something you mentioned both at the beginning and when you were talking about slide 5, and you're talking about the intuition behind security. And at least the intuition I have is that the reason these things are secure is because if you have like one proof, there are too many guesses for you to make it accurately. Like, okay, this is exactly what the underlying secret is, and that's sort of what determines the security of a hash or a ZK proof. And mostly people talk about, quantum computing being the thing that it can do so much compute that eventually it'll break SHA-256 and everything else. I'm a little skeptical of that, but that's a separate thing. I'm kind of wondering if we're missing the elephant in the room, which is that big data as it currently exists with Amazon, Walmart, Target. And they do a lot of data analytics to find out very specific things about people. And I think there was 10 years ago, there was that thing that they found out a girl was pregnant before her father knew and did something. And that was 2013. And in fact, the Zcash founder even mentions this in one of his DevCon talks. And you can only imagine it's gotten better since then. So is it something to worry about if they turn all that sort of analytics firepower not onto the cryptography itself, but onto the various encryption schemes, because that's like a smaller number of things to sort of figure out? And could that in some way compromise like the actual security of ZK?
Let me see if I got the question. So what you're saying, I think, is there's this huge amount of information that lies with everybody, that because we have shared all this information with everybody, all these big organizations. Can we use ZK there to add protection? Is that the question?
No, it's the other way around. Right now, I sort of think of like compute and cryptography almost as offense and defense, if you will. Like compute can figure out a lot of things about you, and cryptography is what keeps it secret. So right now, all the compute that the big organizations are using based on the data about you, that they're figuring out things about you that they should ideally not otherwise know, and they're doing it because of the computer. Crypto keeps it secret because it makes it harder to guess what the underlying thing is when you have like a secret crypto thing. But if they turn that firepower not to the crypto outputs per se, but like what are the various like the various hashing algorithms, so to speak. So if they turn it on Firma or on one of the users of Firma and saying, based on everything else we know about them, this is probably the encryption scheme that we're using, and then use that information to sort of crack all the other downstream information from there. Is that a real threat, or
no?
Am I understanding something?
So I think, but you're getting it. This is such a good question. You're getting at the system level security. You're saying here is, so you had a question, the specific question about how this threat can happen. That is not possible. But what you said earlier, which is, can there be a bigger threat that ZK itself cannot secure, because you have all this information that you have shared with these big institutions? Maybe they can still get information even if you use ZK, even if you use encryption, which is true. This is system level security. This is why the world should, you're building a product. You cannot just use ZK and have this other notions of information elsewhere that is lying, and that can reveal information. And if you do something that is securing data in one channel, but there is data getting leaked on other channels, there it doesn't work. You're right in saying that. And I think, what is the solution? The solution is that you got to think at a system level. This is why a clear view of the world is important. And for example, you cannot just go and say that, hey, I'm going to not share information about this girl who is buying things at Target. I'm not going to share information about, you're going to use pseudonyms, right? That person's first name and last name is not used. You're going to use, you're going to be anonymous. But if all the purchase history is tied to this person, then there is a pattern. This person has also bought what a minor would buy. This person is also buying something that might indicate that this person is pregnant. So this history has revealed something, and that much information is more than enough for people to track where they are. There's so much information. There is plenty information for people to track. So you have to think at a system level, but zero knowledge is just a tool. Your solution has to use multiple tools, and then you have to figure out an architecture for your application to reach the level of security that you want. And zero knowledge is just one tool. It is not a panacea. It doesn't solve. If you put it and it's going to solve all the problems, it's not that way. You got to use it the right way. In the right way, there has to be a systems security approach at a higher level. And cryptographic tools are the ones that help make that happen. But great question. Who is next? Let's see.
Yeah, can I go ahead?
Go ahead, please.
So I've been building something in the gaming space, and the end goal was to incorporate ZK into it, because I think a lot of the things in the Web2 gaming space can be done better with Web3, and also that Web2 games are better in the gameplay and stuff, but there's the privacy part which I think Web3 can solve, right? So I just want like kind of like a few suggestions, because I have built basically an Uno game, and I'm planning to get up my poker game also on it. So how do you suggest I incorporate zk into both of these? So, yeah.
Sure. For privacy, you definitely need to look at these tools like Circom and Noir. These are the two popular ones. There are a few other ones, but I think you would definitely need to start there. I would suggest that you architect in a way where zk doesn't get in the way, because zk can take time to generate proofs. You want things to be in a way where you can send the proof a little bit later. You're sending messages, things are happening. It's optimistic in the sense that you let's say I send you a message in the game. You believe that it is correctly done, and then I'll send you a proof. I'll take my time to generate proof because it actually takes time. And then you verify, and then you say that, okay, yes, she did speak correctly. But if the proof doesn't verify, then you roll back, and you have these rollback mechanisms. But these are the two suggestions I would say are good to keep in mind.
Thank you, Vanishree.
Okay, can I go?
Go ahead, please.
All right. My question is, what part of cryptography is zero knowledge proof, and what industry need zero knowledge proof very, very critically?
I don't know if I caught the question correctly. Can you,
Okay, my question is just two questions. What part of cryptography is zero knowledge proofs, and what industry need zero knowledge proof the most?
I would say crypto, because answering your second part of the question, I would say crypto, because this is where there is this need of how do you verify without trusting somebody, because there is no one single centralized trusted party who can say things and we can just believe that person. That's not how crypto works. What part of cryptography is zk? I'm not 100% sure how to answer this question, but I would say that this is one of the more advanced cryptography tools than the more basic ones, which are signatures and encryption.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Vanishree.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Nandagopan. First off, thank you for giving such a detailed explainer and sharing all your recommendations and suggestions. I'll get to my question. Recently, we have seen quite a lot of projects pushing client-side proving, and I was actually hoping to understand like your perspective on that, like how fast are we getting there? And if my understanding is not wrong, Firma being a middleman between proving infra and proof seekers. So in a world where like we have client-side proving actualized, where do you think Firma fits in?
It's a great question. So projects are pushing on client-side proving. I think the world will be, there will be a split in the world where some people will do client-side proving and some people will do delegated proving. Client-side proving is great when the amount of proof a user needs to do is very, very, very small, and you don't have to reach parts of the world where people may not have like a beefy phone that can do. People might still be using flip phones and all those boxy phones. So there is a part of the world where client-side proving might work. There's a part of the world where client-side proving may not work. For the case where client-side proving does not work, Firma comes in by saying that you can delegate proving while preserving privacy, and we have a protocol for it that we call CPD, confidential proving delegation. So think of Firma as this one-stop shop for any proving needs, be it when privacy is a concern or when privacy is not a concern. Great question. Thank you.
All right. So Thank you, guys, and thank you, Vanishree, for this great presentation. We are at the top of the hour. But Vanishree, I think our community is super interested in Firma and what it does, and it would actually be great to have someone from your team maybe be part of our Discord and answer some questions that were left unanswered in the session. That would be really great. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you all. This was fun.
All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow for another session. Thanks so much to everyone who joined today. And thanks again, Vanishree.